let me do that. I forgot that last time. Thank you for the comment. Let's see here. Can someone, let me see if someone can tell me, let me see if I can pick someone. Okay, Margaret Carlock, I see that you're online. Can you, I'm unmuted your microphone. Can you tell me if you can hear me all right? Yes. Okay. All right, good. So let's just proceed. I've got a recording mistake that I made last time. And I'm looking at this agenda. I'm going to scroll down here. Let's see if I can do that. Here we go. Okay, so basically, let me get started with the core of the meeting. My name again is Ray Lutz. This is Citizens Oversight. We're a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization. We're based in Delaware. We have our primary offices in San Diego, California. But we are intended to be a national organization. We have been focused, though, recently on the you know, the situation in San Diego, especially with regard to the recent election. Now, we, as you know, we have a lawsuit that is in process. Some of the things flying around are a bit of misrepresentation. It is not a full recount or anything like that, but we are fighting to have them redo the audit, which would be very, very interesting if they would do that. October 3rd, put that on your calendar because that's going to be the trial if we get that far. We're proceeding, and unless they give us, you know, completely go belly up and submit to everything, we're going to proceed with the trial because we think that this needs to be settled and not, you know, scuttle into some sort of settlement proceeding where they get to say, oh, we weren't, you know, we weren't at fault, and you know, so we want to make sure that it's decided so it can be applied everywhere. And right now we're doing discovery. There's going to be some depositions taken. Michael Vu, the San Diego Registrar of Voters, is going to be deposed, meaning they go into a, you know, into a room with a recording and so forth, and they have to answer questions under oath. Now, we're in the process of planning for November. We have had a pretty good sign-up, given that we've only been doing this for a bit over maybe a couple of weeks now. We have about 160 or so sign-ups from, mostly from California, but from around the country, which is good. And we want to try to get those teams established by mid-October at the very latest, because that's when they actually start returning the vote by mail ballots, or maybe in other areas it's even earlier. As I did mention in last time, we've targeted the top 175 districts in the nation, which comprises 50% of the voters. And there's some 8,000 districts, but really it's not really fair because well, especially Wisconsin has some 3,500 districts, so they're a big part of the 8,000 because they boil it down to every precinct. We need somebody in Wisconsin to help us make sense of what they've got up there. It looks like they've got it obfuscated so heavily that no one can really follow what goes on. And maybe that's why Paul Ryan is in charge. Now, so that's our goal in terms of getting the teams. We've been establishing the list, and we're going to start sending out information to people in your area. We're assuming that it's okay for everybody who signed up for us to share their information with other people near them so that we can put you together. If you have any problem with that, let us know, and then we'll take you off the list. But really, if you want to help out, you have to work in teams. Now, there's two aspects, and these can apply, we think, to most districts, and especially the first one, which is boots on the ground, in-person oversight. And that, if we do it right, has to happen 10 days before the election actually occurs. We have to go in the office and be watching what happens. You know, it varies depending upon the office, how much oversight you can get, and how cooperative they are to you providing it. And these things, if they're not allowing being cooperative, then we need to make careful notes of all that, so that it's something that we can bring up in a court proceedings. We need to watch the vote by mail reception and how they sort it or screen it, and the signature validation. That's something we didn't do very well this time, at least in San Diego, and I think other places as well. Polling place visits, I don't think I've done this before. Consider doing it, getting somebody to help do it, which means during the actual day of voting, if you're not a poll worker, you can visit a number of polling places. You know, you might be able to go to 20 or 30 different polling places and see how they're doing. We did this especially for polling places in churches. Some of them had the equipment where you vote right up on the altar, and they had voter guides that they were handing out as you walked in. It was really quite coercive what they had going on there. So that can be productive. Then inside the office, there's provisional screening, seeing how they do with the provisionals. The manual tally room, and there are specific ways to watch that. You don't have to watch every minute, but there's certainly key times when they finish up a precinct, and what do they do with it? How do they resolve issues? Do they just run the ballots back through the scanner and say that everything is fine? That actually indicates that something isn't fine at all. Chain of custody is a term they use for how the ballots are managed from the point when they're cast out in the precinct or when they're received and vote by mail. The custody that they're given, is it secure? What we found here is they use these tamper evident seals, but we find many of them are broken or missing, and there's no follow-up whatsoever. They don't keep track of the numbers on the seals, which is essential, but otherwise you just have a whole supply of seals and you just put them on and change them. So the chain of custody is important for any of these audit things to work, and I'm actually mostly worried about the insiders, what they do with these ballots. I'm not so much worried about the public tampering heavily enough to change it. So it's insiders what we're looking for. And when you do all this, the main thing is we can't really predict what you're going to catch. We didn't know we would catch whiting out ballots. We didn't know that we would catch the shredding truck. So you have to be vigilant and have enough people there with their video cameras, with their camera phones or whatever, what have you, and be able to think of what are the questions, what are they not telling us, this type of thing in the middle of it. And it means that sometimes it's just a matter of luck. I mean, the picture of the shredding truck we just happened to catch behind our press conference. And again, we're looking into that to see why did they have the shredding truck at the registrar of voters during the election. So the second aspect that can be applied to most districts is the snapshot oversight, snapshot protocol. And basically, this can in addition help with the testing of the chain of custody as well. But mainly the snapshot oversight is to make their audit that they perform something that we can carefully observe. And if you don't have the snapshot file, then they can just undo any changes that they make behind our back and we wouldn't know. So and there's another tutorial about that. I'm not going to try to explain it again here. Yeah, I find it sort of hard to explain. I hope everybody kind of understands the idea of that we need to have the result frozen before they start doing the audit. Otherwise, they just change it to match whatever they want. They can undo manipulation. So what we have done is we send a letter to election officials notifying them of the need, our need for the snapshot data file. And this is something that we did in California to all the districts that we were paying attention to. So it's not that hard to send out an email to all the districts. So in other areas, like if somebody is working in Florida or Texas or what have you, we can figure out what the districts are through our targeting procedure, and then you can very easily just send an email to all of the districts and say, we want you to do this, cooperate with us on this, and see what happens. I mean, the worst they can say is we're not going to cooperate, but you'll get some cooperation. You'll get some. They'll have some idea that people are watching what they're doing, and that's worth it. So that's what we first do, is send a notification letter out. Then part of this, as well as is we need to watch as the ballots come in, because if they can just stuff the ballot box, if you will, however they want, then it doesn't matter how much manual tallying you do, they can change it. So that has to be observed at least as best we can, and there's a way to check that later, but we need to watch it. Then obtain the snapshot data file, which is the preliminary results broken down by precinct, the ballot type, and the ballot option, that is what's the races on the ballot. So the snapshot file is typically a somewhat extensive data file. From San Diego, it's something that you can't open up in a spreadsheet because it's some 200 megabytes. So we have to process that with another script, which we have written, and we can apply it to other. If you have the same type of data file, or we can write another one if you have a different one. We want to find out what it is and what we get. But we can deal with whatever it is that we get and make sense of it. And then we watch or participate in the precinct selection. Recommend that you bring in a camera and do that. Make sure that all the ballots are cast are included. And this is what we finally realized after a number of years of doing this here in California, that they're neglecting about 40% of the ballots. And that's the subject of our lawsuit. And we're going to win that. But it's going to be October before we actually win it. But I think that that's going to really give some life to our whole team here, our extended team family, which you guys are in. It's going to give us a lot of notoriety, and I believe a lot of buy-in from a lot of the states, and hopefully a cooperation. Then we get the report. That is the manual tally report. And that is something that we're now working on, setting up a archive of all of the 1% manual tally reports in at least California, and we'll do it in other states too, here at Citizens Oversight's server, so that we have it. The Secretary of State in California has just failed to post these at all since 2010. So we've had 2 major elections since then, and nothing posted, and even this last one, nothing posted. So I think they just want to, it's such an important thing for us to watch the audit. I think they kind of want it to go away. Then taking a look at the results. So it's some work to do this, but it's really not that much. It's basically, we notify them, we get the data before they do the manual tally, and what we did in San Diego is we got a CD handed to us. And in other counties, we asked them to upload it to the server. A few of them cooperated, maybe half a dozen, but most did not. And so I believe it's going to take the boots on the ground, the people to go in and insist that you get that snapshot file so that we can really watch them. So that's going to be your main thing that you need to do, is to get that file. Now, then we check the snapshot file to see if it matches the computer report, and to see if they're not cheating. And usually they won't at that point, because they already know that you're watching, so they're not going to probably make any changes. And as we say, we're building the archive of audits, so we want to, if you get it, if you just upload it to our audits, or we'll help you do that. I believe that now Dorothy Dillon is going to be learning how to help us build that audit archive, and I want to thank her in advance for stepping forward. Now the data collection, and so that that's the end of the two aspects that I was talking about that can be applied to most districts. And there is a couple of other things in there that that I didn't actually list here, but I'll try to add that in later. But those are the two main aspects. We're going to be doing the boots on the ground and the snapshot oversight with regard to the local elections. That's our main focus. The data collection from the June election. Now, this is actually really important with regard to the other types of manipulation that have occurred recently, such as not dealing with the nonpartisan voters correctly, and making it just hard for them to be processed. No one is really gathering solid data on this, and we have gathered this in the past. We started a sample of the sign-in rosters in San Diego, and basically I did produce a So the sign-in rosters are let me just cover that quickly. When you go to the precinct, there's some people at the tables who sign you in. You have to sign a list that says, you know, you're the person and you're signing in, and then they give you a ballot, and they give you a certain ballot. Well, what we're doing in this is we review all of that paperwork from the precincts when they actually process people voting, and when they did all of this monkey business with provisionals and the nonpartisan voter. It's too much to do all of the precincts. So even a 5% sample is challenging. That's doing about 77 precincts, and each one so far has taken us about a half an hour. We can probably get faster at doing it, but at first it took us much longer than that. But that was because we had so much contention with the registrar of voters who didn't want us to be there and wanted to call the police. But we stood our ground, and now we're in the process of doing it. There's certain things that we cannot video record, so our video on that is limited. I'll cover that in a second. But basically, we get a lot of information. You'll actually learn a lot about how they actually processed us when we voted. And they're claiming now that the number of provisionals, at least in San Diego, that in the court case, the county has claimed the number of provisionals is no different than other elections, and is about 10%. And this is quite different from the experience of most people, where a lot of people were put in, you know, the crossover voters were put into provisional envelopes. Well, they were not being treated, I believe, as provisionals. They weren't given the benefits of provisionals, and they were probably screened like provisionals. So, but they weren't listed as provisionals. So it's kind of a big. I think they saw it as an opportunity to try to manipulate the election. These little nuances in the law. And so, you know, we're learning a lot. We haven't gotten to the end of it, but we've done. I was able to do a little bit of comparison today, and that's included in the video to show you how you compare that with a snapshot file. So basically, people bring in, so they come in, they sign the roster, they vote. The people there at the precinct total up all of the ballots that have been voted. They put it in the box. They have a report. It says how many were there. And then those go to the central office here in San Diego. They're transported in and then put through scanners. But before they're put through scanners, they take some of them out. About 5% just disappear. And then they scan fewer than that when they get into the local office. And there's no explanation for this loss of ballots as they come in. And then magically, partially, they reappear later, but no documentation or anything. So that's an issue. That's kind of the thing that we're working on to try to figure out and put them in a vice. We believe that this procedure can be applied to other districts. So if you want to really find out what happened in this last election and work with citizens oversight to do it, we want to try to get this data from other areas. You don't have to do a full 5%, but the minimum you should do is 1%, and that is the same precincts that they chose for the 1% manual tally. And then you can extend that if it's going well. Now, before I move on, there is a new video that I just posted, and it's at, you can see the link here. I will send that, or I believe I sent that in the reminder email to you. The roster review tutorial, this is basically just an audio recording that we made, and then I posted the documents that we were looking at the time, because they would not allow us to video record it, at least not close enough so that you could see anything. So they're real idiots here. They have us put the camera across the room, and they give us one table that we have to kind of scrunch on. We have requested another table, and eventually they gave it to us. But I mean, that they could be more cooperative, but they want to be, you know, they don't like this. They don't like oversight. I'll tell you, we got to do it. So this is a time really right now when you can do that. It takes, we have been unsuccessful on conducting this until after the primary is all over. We'd like to do it before they certify, so we could see what their audit trail is like, but we haven't been able to do it. But basically what you do is you ask them for that information, and it is this other, we have it in a procedure here. You can see this picture hopefully, which is the boxes of the roster materials, and each one of them is about at most about 3/4 of an inch thick, maybe to an inch thick, and then they, you know, it's for every registered voter in the area. They have maybe 20 on a page, and they have, so if you had 400 voters, and it'd be 5 times 4, it would be like 20 pages just for that, and they have a bunch of other pages. So here is the boxes here that you see, and in this picture, they have maybe 20 in a box, and what we have to do is ask them for perhaps 5 at a time, 10 at a time. They go into the room and carefully get them, bring them out, and then we go through them. The video of the procedure is, I'm hearing some sound here. I'm going to see, please mute your microphone if you're not talking. Mute hers. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get, yeah, and unless I'm asking for you to talk, I'm going to get to questions and we're going to get through this pretty quickly. But this this procedure, we're honing it. I mean, we haven't applied it to any other district yet, so we don't know how different your precinct rosters are. They could be vastly different. I mean, I think they're going to be roughly the same. The colors and so forth may be different. I mean, it's senseless that every district does something differently, but that's the way it is. And that can be applied now. And this is a very important step. Don't underestimate. We're still working on the last election. We're not done with it yet. We are not done reviewing what they did. And this is because we haven't been able to get this information until after they certify and until after they scan all of these rosters into their own system. But now you can put a request in and say, I want to look at, have access to these rosters so that we can do a review. These are not the ballots, so they can't say you can't see them. They will kick and squirm over you scanning them as we have done, because they won't let you scan the signatures. But we just agree not to scan the signatures, and then they put us in a room and we can have at it. It's going to take us probably at least 5 more days of work to get in what our target is. I don't know if we'll be able to complete all of it, but we're going to shoot for it, and hopefully we can work with your teams and you can do the same type of thing. Now, that's the data collection for the June election. I'm going to finish this agenda here before we get to questions and answers. Other states, we have determined the basic priorities, 175 districts, and let's take a look at that procedure just quickly. You've probably seen this if you were here before. We've identified the top 10 states in terms of a state-by-state basis. The very top is California, Texas, and Florida. Those are the top ones. But it isn't really fair because you see Nevada here is not, you know, one of the top 10 or even the top 20. But they're in the very top of the counties, because in this next view, what we did was we took all of the counties, which is some 8,000 counties, and we took the top 175, which comprises the top 50% of all the voters. Imagine that. In these colored areas, that's where 50% of the voters live. You know, most of these states have nobody in them, or most of the areas. And indeed, they're the metropolitan areas. In Nevada, you'll notice that Nevada is in the top. Let's see, what is blue? I can't see it because this thing's covering it. Blue is the top 20 to 30. So it should be. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It should say rank 1 to 10 and then 10 to 20, 20 to 30. I wonder what happened there. I'll have to look into that, make sure I correct that. So basically, they're in the second group, though, the top groups. And no, that's correct. It's the first 10 is 10% of the voters. I don't know. Yeah, I have it wrong there. It says 20 to 30. Okay. Gee, I'm thinking that I'm thank you for letting me see that my mistake. So anyway, these are the top counties in the nation. So even if your state ranks low, if you have a county here like the county where Las Vegas is, Clark County, then definitely we want you to be involved. And we don't even have to be in the county to do it. You can be somewhere else. You can run a number of counties. I know somebody up in the Detroit area, not so much in Detroit, but nearby, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counties, and including the one over to the side there, and so 6. So basically, you can, in Michigan, you can be dealing with all those top counties plus the other ones. And then what you do is you go into each state and look at the numbers in each state. And we had, I did it here for California. Those are the top counties. And in fact, it's interesting, if you take San Diego orange, which is the little one there, and Los Angeles, that's half of the voters in the state. If you take all the red, it is 72%. So, and then if you add the blue, you get up to 92% of the voters are in just those top 2 dozen. So we're not going to want to focus, even though we're not going to say you can't do it. But if you live in one of the other counties, by all means, do it. If you live in a smaller county, then go ahead. Because some of them are still way out of line. I know Imperial County here, the one at the bottom, which is not have a color, it does its selection in advance, so it's out of line. It just takes calling them on it and saying, yeah, you're doing it wrong, and then keep pounding on them until they start doing it the right way. What we want you to do if you're in your state is to take a look in the same fashion. In fact, we've done it for all of them. We've taken a look at all of the states in the same fashion. You know, you don't have to have you do it. It's basically all done. But we want to break that out, and then what you need to do is get contact information for each of the districts that we're going to be looking at. Let's see here. Let's go back to the agenda. And as I said, in the next short period of time, we're going to be getting a group, trying to put groups together from our sign-up list and introducing you to each other, and making sure that in your state or your area, that if there are activist groups, election integrity groups, that we make use of them. We're not trying to undo things that already exist. We want to collaborate with everybody. And then the next one is a sample notification letter that you can use for asking for the snapshot data. We've already have done this in California. We'll maybe just do it ourselves for all of California. And let's see. And the other thing that we are in the process of doing is getting the manual tally results and for the areas. And if you haven't done that, if you have a manual tally like we do in California, in California we've asked for all of them, so you don't need to do it yourself. We'll be setting those up in a database so we can get to all of them. We asked for the ones for the last 4 years, as I said. Okay, now I believe we've reached, oh good, we only used 30 minutes, so we have more time that we can use for any questions that we might have. Now let me see if I can figure out how to do this in a useful way. Is there any, I can't go back through the chat window. It's very, very small, so it's hard to use. Is there any specific questions, and if somebody wants to ask a question, if you can chat with me? Otherwise, I'm going to go person to person and see how you're doing, if I can see your name. Okay, here's something here. Merced, this should be Sharon. Let me see if I can bring you up here. Here you go. Okay, I'm going to unmute Sharon. Okay, Sharon Hoffman, you're in Merced, but you were working on the San Bernardino area. I unmuted you. Can you unmute your side too? Sharon, can you unmute your side? And there, sounds like something happened. Hello? Okay, well, maybe she's not there. I was hoping that she could say what's going on. Very hard to do this way. There's no way for people to raise hands. That's what I don't like about this. I'll tell you what, Christine Mose, you were involved in our group for the last couple of days. Maybe you'd like to talk about your experience of so far of looking at these precinct rosters. Christine?
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, here's somebody. Christine, are you there?
No, this is Tricia Morea.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, well that's good enough. Tricia, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
see you there.
Well,
Tricia,
that's one person. That's
yeah.
one person you can hear. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm involved in this because, you know, I haven't been able to because I had a kidney transplant, but I'm getting better, so I'm able to do more out there in the world.
Okay.
So I have a question is, what is the purpose? Where exactly is this going from here? Like, we want to do all this work, but what is the actual purpose? Because I got on a couple minutes late.
Oh, okay. Well, the purpose of this is to provide election oversight. And in
Okay.
general, what we found in citizens oversight, because we've been doing various types of oversight for, well, we were founded in about 2006, 2007 timeframe. And we did a lot of research back in 2008 regarding the election then. And, you know, election integrity has been a big issue for so many years. We had the 2001, you know, ripoff there, poor Al Gore, and then Kerry and Bush. You know, Kerry would have won that.
Right.
Were not ripped off again. And now we saw this election, and what a mess. So we're trying to, what I see is that we have a lot of people who were, you know, very, I guess, irritated by the level of rigging and hacking going on. And let me tell you, it's very evident. And, you know, it's not because I want one person to win or another, even though I do, but that's not the issue. We're not here trying to, you know, get Bernie Sanders to win or something like that.
Okay. That was a question of mine.
Yeah, well, I would love it if we could do that. I don't see any path forward to get Bernie Sanders to win except unless something happens where,
right.
like maybe, you know, Hillary gets, you know, thrown in jail.
Right. And that's what we're all hoping for.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. But citizens oversight in general is nonpartisan. We're really not cheering as an organization for one or another. What we want is for these elections just to be held properly, and they're not being held properly. We also have found in general, and this is not part of this project, but other projects that Citizens Oversight has engaged in, what we invite people to do is to start getting involved in very closely watching what our local elected officials and other unelected officials are doing by providing oversight. Because if you're not there, like a lot of times meetings, we'll go to meetings, not just city council, but fire board, water board, hospital board, you know, they're all there. They're all, you know, approving new taxes and new money spending and raises for themselves and, you know, not working on what they should be working on and so forth. And no one's there, you know. They say, well, this, you know, no citizens, you know, didn't like what we were saying. And now we, you know, we are, but if you're there, you can say, well, that's not a good idea. And they go, well, gee, someone from the public objected to our great idea. Now they have to explain it. And so here, what happened was, since 2008, I've been rigorously with very few people here watching this election district, because Michael Vu is a transplant from Cuyahoga County, Ohio, where he fixed the election in 2004. And the concordants were convicted and for it, and they were let off the hook due to you know, basically corruption of the system. And they said, oh, everything's fine. And Michael Vu, you get a bigger job over here in San Diego after only 3 months, rewarded for doing his deed. And so we've had to deal with this basically slime bag here for quite some time. And what we've done is discovered that they're not doing the 1% audit correctly. Now, the 1% audit is not actually counting the ballots, but if you don't do the audit, then they can do massive central tabulator type manipulation of the result by putting in 10,000 or 20,000 votes to one or another. Like so the manual tally takes 1% of the precincts. That's only 16 out of 1,522 precincts. And Gary carefully tallies them. So the weird thing in this election was, and I've never seen this before, is that the early vote by mail ballots, the ones that come in and the ones that are, you know, put up on the screen of mainstream media as the initial results that you can rely upon to predict the rest of the election, had Hillary Clinton winning 58 to 42% in the manual tallied precincts now. So these are the ones that are actually hand counted, 58 to 42. And the polls ballots were the other way around. Bernie Sanders won 58 to 42, almost down to the fraction of a percent. So, usually there's some difference between the vote by mail ballots and the manual tally ballots, but it's not. Usually it's not always. It's only going to be a few percent this way or that. You're not going to have it be massively different, usually by 40 points like that. Never seen that before. So there seems like there's been some manipulation perhaps of the vote by mail ballots because they have 10 days to work on those. So here's the thing: if we want, basically, it's our job as citizens to make sure that our elections are not rigged. No one else is going to do it.
Right.
You can't, because the elected officials that are supposed to be doing it, they're part of the problem. They're in the corruption ring. And so we have to go in and check ourselves, and the way to do this is to get citizens that can dedicate a little bit of time. And, the thing is, we don't want to put everything on anybody's shoulders. We want to put just a little bit, as much as you can, not as much as you can take, but a little bit, that you can feel like you're dedicating yourself to doing something worthwhile. But we want to make sure that we're being effective in what we ask people to do. Because when I first started doing election integrity, they says, oh, gather this information and so forth. And I did, spent a lot of time and effort doing it. And then they said, well, we're not going to use that anyway, or it's just worthless. Really? I spent all that time to do that, and I discovered later, it really was no use. You could get that information very easily some other way without going through all that agony. But they were well-intentioned. But now at this point, we have something under our belt here that we can raise a flag and say, look, we've got these guys that are losing the case. So we know we've got them up against the wall, and we're going to take them to court on October 3rd and say, you've got to do it the right way. And they're going to lose. So what other election integrity group is doing that? Most of them are mostly just filing cases knowing that they're going to go nowhere, but doing it to a lot of fanfare, like, look at us, we're making some progress because we're filing a case to reverse the election or something, with no real way forward to do that. So I'll be, I'm not trying to, get people thinking that what we're going to do here is going to, I want to say right away, I don't see any way that we can reverse the last election results. We tried that. We tried to get them to stop, and they wouldn't stop it in time. So we did every avenue that we could do. But what we want to try to do this time is in November and in future elections. As in November is a very short time frame. We're not going to really be able to get all these teams in place, but we're going to do our best. And are they going to be perfectly productive? Probably not, but they'll get some production. And even just being there, I'll tell you, just being there, you have people that come in and say, okay, well, I'm just going to stand behind you as you do the provisional ballot, approval, whether the signatures match. Then having a person there is different experience for that worker than no one there. It's just a different experience. So for as much as we can, we want to get people to come in shifts, and you have to have people who are good at organizing, especially a big district like San Diego, which is one of the biggest in the nation. To come in shifts, a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there. And it's amazing what we found. We found all kinds of stuff that's great. You don't know what it's going to be. If you find nothing, then credit yourself that you were there and you were causing them not to do anything that time. So that's basically our agenda. I hope that people knowing that some of the stuff you've heard that we're going to recount California and maybe it'll go the other way. I would love, we tried to get that involved, but you know what? The parties have control. And this year they had their conventions extremely early with no opportunity for us to really take anything to court. And that also is part of the rigging where they can get the election rigged, they ramrod it through, We have no chance to check anything during the election. We have to. They won't let us to some of the let us see some of the information until after the fact. You have 5 days after the election to challenge it if you want to do the contest the election. We put some of those contests in, but then immediately Bernie Sanders says, I give up and I'm nominating Hillary Clinton, and they have a convention right away. Done. And so now if you take it to court, they say, well, your request to, challenge the election is moot because there's no way for it to have any effect whatsoever. Now, as I said, the only way that this is going to probably change is if, people are hoping that, the WikiLeaks comes out with some more DNC documents or something, or, that's going to really, make it hard on Hillary, and they're going to have to see the truth. And then she's going to be taken out of the race, and then maybe Bernie will. That's still possible, but it's got to happen really fast. We pretty much have passed the time for that to happen. But it's got to happen really fast. It's going to happen, and I predict that the wheels are in motion right now. We can see what's happening. That unfortunately we're not going to be able to, as citizens, not do this. But this isn't the first time I've seen this. I've seen this over and over. They say, "Oh, this is this is a new movement, and we didn't make it this time," and so forth. It seems like it's always that way, and I'm always sitting here scratching my head, saying, "Damn, they've stole it again." What I'm trying to do is get people to understand this important audit process, which is the only thing we really have to make sure that these elections are run fairly and squarely. We don't have any other real mechanism that's this good. In California, it's actually very good. It's not as good as it could be, but it's very good compared to other states. Other states like Florida, you don't get every race tallied. You get only one race tallied that's randomly picked, and then 1% of the precincts, that one race is tallied. That's not enough. And it's usually not the big race. You want the presidential race, if you have that, to be tallied, because that's what everybody's interested in. If you do that one, and there's some other race that they could fix too, which is a local guy who could easily have his race fixed by the officials. So that's the agenda. That's basically the game plan for having people help with this and get teams that are starting to learn about the audit and how to most effectively watch it very carefully. And there's only a few things you have to do to really watch it carefully. You have to get the snapshot, what we call the snapshot data file, which is the frozen results ahead of time before they choose from it which ones are going to sample. And and the other bad thing they're doing is choosing the precincts like 2 months in advance. A number of districts do this. They say, yeah, it's a random selection. But if you choose it and they tell you what they are and post it on the website, and any hacker can just avoid the ones they're going to audit. You never do it that way. When they say random selection, it's supposed to mean nobody knows what it is until the last minute, and then it's a surprise. The surprise element is very important. So these things are not doing. Most of the audits are a sham. They're not actually there to audit the election. They're just there to look good and make the public think that they're doing a good job. The other thing that's about this is that the media treats this topic like taboo. They're not going to cover very well the lawsuits that we have over this and so forth. They don't cover it. I had a hard time getting this, like the Union Tribune, which covers most of the stuff I do, but in this case, I couldn't get them to even write an article on it until we actually had our first hearing and the results, and then they write an article that's very, slanted, or I guess you could take it the other way. What they say makes it look like the county is looking for answers. Well, the county actually, they should say, is violating the law, and they're not looking for answers, except that they're trying to look for a way out of what we have them in the corner right now. So I hope that answers your question. Do you have any other parts of your question you want to continue on that?
No, I think that pretty much answers it. I was kind of concerned what exactly the purpose was for going back.
Going back, is very important because that's what an audit does. It always goes back. And what you find out is what they're doing now, what they did now, what they're not tracking, what they're how the ballots are getting lost, how they're not. The chain of custody is a real big problem. Here in San Diego, they put these little stickers on the boxes, and they're tamper-proof seals. But and they have a number on them, and you know, tamper-evident seals. You're not supposed to be able to take them off unless you break them or something. Well, but they break them all the time, and they remove them and replace them, but there's no review. So we had in our review of these seals, which they document how many were missing or broken, there was 99 cases of broken or missing seals. And I said, well, how do you let this go by? What do you do when the seals are missing? Aren't you worried? So they don't follow it up. Now the thing is that as citizens, if we're not there watching our elections, they're going to atrophy into a mode where the hackers can just take control of everything. We have to, as citizens, be extremely vigilant about our elections so that we can make sure that they're valid. And what we've done in this country is we've had the attitude that, oh, we just vote, we hope our guy gets in, and then we watch Netflix the rest of the year. We don't worry about anything else. And then, hey, it's not our problem because we hated both of them anyway. Well, what it comes down to in our point of view is that we're still responsible for the operation of what's going on. And this is especially bad if it's your guy who's in there. Like if it's Obama gets in there, then we all atrophy and say, well, it's our guy, so we can't object to him very much. You know, what he does has got to be definitely good because he's our guy. And so all the Democrats start saying, well, let's not do anything. Meanwhile, if they're objecting to Bush every day, of course, there was a lot to object to then too. But it is a mindset that says, look, let's team up. It can't be on one person's shoulders because it's too big of a problem. Look, we have 175 districts across the nation that are our top prospects. That's only 50% of the voters. But it's only 175. So if we get 10 people in each district, that's 1,750 people. It should be feasible to get that many people. Then we can have 10 people in all the top districts in the nation going in and watching their elections. I think that would change things remarkably if you had 10 people in there doing a very strict procedure about how to observe. So that's the game plan. And so, I think what I offer you to do, if you don't believe that it will bear fruit, just try it. I've been doing this for a while, and I've been working on issues that are just as, each one is just as important, just about as hard as I can the last number of years. And it is a very, very productive way to spend your time. If you say, well, how can I, and this is something that I talk about for citizens oversight in general, but how do you spend your time if you want to be an effective citizen? Well, I could write a blog, and then maybe somebody would read it, and then they would change their mind. Maybe they would vote differently. The guy would get in office, not be corrupted by the system, and then he would maybe vote differently, and I would have an effect. Well, I'm not saying don't write any blogs or be a writer or reporter or whatever. That's an important thing to do. But how long was that chain? To get there, it's going to take you forever to make any change. Or you can go to a meeting, be an oversight person, catch them at what they're doing, and make the change. So we're making a change in California. We're going to get these guys, the election officials, to completely change their way of handling the 1% manual tally. That's the kind of change that I want to see people be able to do themselves. And where are you what is your district? Let's see.
Mine?
Yeah. What is
what is it? Is it district? It's either 51 or 52, I think.
No, what city are you in?
I'm in San Diego.
Oh, you're in San Diego.
92116, yeah.
Okay, so the district I'm talking about is not the elected districts, but the election officials districts. So you're in San Diego.
Right.
Okay. And then there's other districts around the state like Los Angeles, Orange County. They're usually, in California, they're all the counties. So there's one district per county
I see.
in California. In Alaska, it's one district. They do all the counties are in one because they don't have that many people. But here, and some of them are very small districts. You have one precinct with maybe 400 people. You know, we're not going to work on that one. And in fact, it's interesting because the small districts pretty much all went for Bernie Sanders in this election. It's the big districts that apparently went the other way. So we're also looking at where the corruption is going.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, it's apparently. So let's see here. Let's see how to approach a hostile. I've got a question here from, let's see, who's Catherine Karina. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Tricia. I'm going to turn you off right now, okay?
Oh, sure. No problem.
Okay. All right, now let's go over to Karina has a question. Karina, why don't you go ahead and ask your question. I turned your microphone on, and you need to probably unmute on your side so you can talk. Go ahead and ask your question if you're there. Okay, if you're not there, I can just read it here. It says, do you have any advice about how to approach a fairly hostile ROV, such as Tim Dupuy in Alameda County? He is ROV who did not allow observers to take notes, walk around, sit down, or even take our phones out, no pictures, etc. We hope to be more involved with the observation process and the audit process. Okay. I've heard about this in Alameda County, and that is going to take some work to break through that. In other situations, I have been successful in bringing my camera into just about everywhere I go, and it does take time, though, to get through the brick wall that these guys are used to putting up. We have a number of attorneys in that area that I think what we're going to have to do is really target Alameda as a county where we're looking specifically at voter rights and the ability to observe the election effectively. And because you do have rights, you do have the right to observe the election. There's a whole list. If you take a look at the election code, section 2300, that is the voter rights list. And one of the important ones is a number 9, which is the right. You have a right to ask questions and get them answered. And if they can't answer the question, they're supposed to find someone that can answer it. And it's a pretty strong provision. It doesn't mean that they're going to be suddenly cooperative, but at least it's ammo that you have in your case that you can bring out and say, look, this is what you're supposed to do. He may be on our, we may have to sue him. You know, once they get into this mode of being bad boys like that, I don't know if there's anything around. I'll tell you this, in general, with many things that I've done, it does help to build a relationship with whatever you're doing and not try to be too confrontational. Try that first and see, you know, how it goes. It sounds like that's not working, though, in this case. Sometimes it takes, you know, weird things like going to this guy's church and you know, making friends with him in the pew next to yours or something like that. You know, whatever, you know, really tracking down who this guy is and trying to make friends with him. Otherwise, you know, what we take is I don't usually sue. This is actually the very first lawsuit that we have implemented because we had no way around it. We've asked this guy for years to follow the law, and he wouldn't do it. And then we waited in the election until he was violating the law and we could document it, and then we took him to court. So Is that going to help us get cooperation from him in the future? The only way forward, I think, in this case is to actually get him out. And that's what I'm hoping for. I think Michael Vu should never have been in there, and I hope that he's removed. And we're going to be pushing for that. But having someone who is, you know, usually they're unelected, a lot of times they're unelected officials. I'm not sure about Alameda, but it's the case here. And the observation of the audit process, even if they don't cooperate, there's things that we can do to you know, to watch that, especially if we get them to choose the 1% after they're done with the election. I mean, choosing it before, then the whole thing is a sham, and they're just playing with us rather than doing anything right. So again, I'll underline that we're going to be, this is another aspect of what we're going to be doing in the upcoming election, is to get teams in place so that we can at least attempt to exercise our rights to oversee. We're going to be pushing the envelope of what they're used to, because they're not used to this kind of intense scrutiny. They're used to people just, hey, go on your merry way, we'll take care of everything. And then we have disasters like we just saw. So it's going to take time. I don't expect this to turn around instantly, but every little bit that we do, even if we just try to do it, and they know, oh, there's a group trying, and then they have to be thinking about, well, are they allowing enough oversight and so forth. And, you know, I'm willing to go up there and see for myself, you know, get it documented and get some attorneys involved that are in the area, because I'm way down here in San Diego, but I know there's people up there who can track that in Alameda. Let me see if there was any other quick questions, and then we'll adjourn. Oh, I see. Karina says she didn't have a microphone. Okay, so I tried to answer your question anyway. Tricia says she's still on board. I didn't talk her out of it. Thank you, Tricia. Jennifer Evans, I want to thank you for the work you do. Okay, let's see. Traumatized, seeing how this election went. I guess you can read these too. Not a question. Oh, I guess there is one here. It says, will you be putting people from each state into teams when you do think that, when do you think this will happen? The person who was going to be doing that is Janet, and she did take a short trip, vacation with her family right now, and so she will be back to do that. But you know, if somebody else wants to step forward and say, look, I'm really good at you know, managing volunteers and getting them into teams, I'd be interested in working with other people. We're also still working on getting sign-ups from other areas. We have, you know, we're going to need to reach out, and there's some people who have really good networks, Facebook networks and other things that can be, we're going to try some cross-promotion of this and see if we can get some others in. Okay, well, we're a little bit over when I wanted to try to adjourn. I'd like to try to end these at 7. Okay, so, and finally, Pennsylvania. The question is, have other people from Pennsylvania signed up? Do you know? And yes, I do. We do have the list, and I believe we have a number of people from Pennsylvania. I'm not going to try to pull it up right now, but we will be getting to that. And the Cuyahoga County is incredibly important in Pennsylvania, and of course that's where Michael Vu is from. I do think that there's some good election integrity there, but oh, that's Ohio. I'm sorry. I'm getting mixed up. So in Pennsylvania, Philly and all the areas around Philly are where everybody is, except for Pittsburgh. So all of those counties there, if we could, and I would have to review. So if you're in Pennsylvania, we can set you up, and That's Jennifer Evans asking. Let me see if you have a microphone, Jennifer. Since we didn't get very many people to actually talk. Jennifer, are you there? Do you have a microphone?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
So
good.
what town are you in, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Lehigh County, which is close to Philly.
Yeah, okay.
It's a suburb of Philly.
Right. I notice all those counties are in our top 175
Yeah,
list.
right. Yeah.
Now, do you happen to
So
know, Jennifer, about the auditing process in Pennsylvania offhand?
I started to do some research. I couldn't find much. It doesn't seem like there's a very robust process. And we, you know, at least in our county, I think we pretty much use electronic voting machines. I have never seen
Well,
paper ballots, but
they're supposed to be using um,
we get the little cards.
they're supposed to be using some sort of, I believe they're supposed to be using some sort of voter verified paper trail.
Okay, I'll do some more research.
Well, there's a really good place in Minnesota called Verified. Well, one of it is Verified Voting, and they always refer me to. Let me get over to the main site here.
Oh, I see.
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. We're talking about Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Here it is. Now, actually, the place I want to go is this site here. I was trying to remember what it was. It's Citizens for Election Integrity Minnesota, and they've done a great job of archiving all of the laws in every state and saying how they compare.
Okay.
So
That's
Pennsylvania's
great. Okay.
audit law provides for all items on the ballot to be audited, but the audit results are not binding and can't lead to an official recount. But I still think these audits you see are, even if they're not binding, because the ones in California really aren't any either. But they do. I mean, the people that are there are probably, they're very conscientious and they want to do the right thing. And so if you're watching them and you show them that their result is wrong, they're very likely to might do something. But the problem is very low transparency. They don't have to do it publicly. Only designated observers can be present, so maybe it's hard to get in. They don't have to make the results public, and observers can't verify marks on the ballot. We can't do that either, but we can, but not very well. I mean, but basically when they're doing an audit, so I think that there's hope. I think that there's hope there. It says direct recording electronic equipment without voter-verified paper trails are used in 47 counties. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible. And so that means that you have no audit trail, and so they can really manipulate this to their heart's content. In that case, using absentee or do you guys do mail ballots there?
Not that I know of.
You can't vote by mail? You can't do an absentee ballot?
I mean, I don't, so well, probably absentee, yeah. I mean,
yeah, because sometimes that's a way to get around it, because that's then a physical ballot that can be recounted. So it's going to be interesting to try to extend what we're doing here to the other areas. I think that some areas are just going to be absolutely out of luck because they've got it completely rigged so that you can't even watch what they're doing, and that's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I think that, and this is a problem, mixed paper ballot. So it is a mixed paper ballot and DREs without the voter verified paper trail. Voter verified paper audit trail, VVAT. So that is a story. Now, do we have other people? Yeah, I do think we have a few, but not too many in Pennsylvania yet, and so we're going to need to be looking for other people to team up. But you can have definite effect, and actually you can extend your effect quite a bit if you, what I did here was I first took a look at San Diego County, and then once I figured out how to do it here, then I just took it to all the counties. And most of them were a waste of time. That's why I'm cautioning people not to just do that without thinking, because it's a lot of work to talk to counties that only have a few voters, and it doesn't matter what they do. And so doing it to the key counties, and we've already looked at that and figured out what they are, and you know where they are in Pennsylvania. They're right around Philly and Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Okay, so
okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you for calling, and I hope you will participate.
Yep, I plan to.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Okay,
thank you very much. Okay, it says, oh, that's a private one. Okay, present work. Yes, okay, very good. Okay, now I think we're over the limit. I'm very sorry for extending this another 13 minutes. I know some people have had to leave because they had other appointments at 7, but we're still good. We're got a good crew at least listening in, and this will be recorded for other people. And I did remember to start the recording. Thank you for suggesting that, because it's something I forget sometimes. So I want to thank everybody for attending. I will send out the recording of this, and we will keep you on our list. Let your friends know, your networks know, to also sign up so that we can get these teams going and that we can be prepared for November. Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.